I don't think there is any chance that a D.C. jury acquits Donald Trump of anything. They could charge him with jaywalking. They could charge him with, shooting somebody without evidence. They would find him guilty in Washington, D.C. because there's so much palpable Trump hatred there. So is he prepared? And to your point, I don't think they'll be able to get him off the ballot. That might go to the Supreme Court. What should conservatives be prepared for, though, if Trump is actually convicted in any of these cases?
No, listen, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, legally speaking, it's definitely going to be tough. I think this is a race against time. I think, delaying action here is really the name of the game, pushing these trials back, pushing, all of these matters back as far as possible to make sure that he's, won the primary, he's on the ballot for the general election, and fighting many of the separate, measures that could be happening through rules changes, through bylaw changes, through fights at the conventions, anything that the establishment can sort of dig up to tie his candidacy and tie his ability to be on the ballot to the status of these cases. I think those are something that we can't let fall by the wayside. But listen, I think right now we need to get him into the White House. We need to get him elected. I think that is the best guarantee going forward, because I agree with you. I think he's never going to get a fair trial. And I think a lot of these things, we're going to need injunctions. We're going to need to move straight to the Supreme Court, where I think a lot of these matters will end up. It's going to be a long, rocky road. It's certainly going to be very messy. It's really going to destroy the last ounces of legitimacy most Americans have in our judicial and legal system. But, at the end of the day, I think it's a wake-up call for most Americans. And I think we need to continue to stand by the president. We need to show his support. We need to get behind him. We need to rally for him. We need to peacefully assemble, exercising all of our, rights that we have as Americans, and not be scared to do so. But it's certainly going to be a rocky road. I think ultimately he will prevail. I am optimistic. And I think that's the best thing we could be right now, because I think a lot of this is designed to be a demoralization campaign. They want you to think it's over. They want you to think that the battle's already done, that there's nothing we can do, and to go home, to stay home, to not support the president, to not come out and voice your opinion. They want you to think the game is up, it's rigged. I think that's part of their power projection. And I think there's actually a lot of holes in their legal arguments, obviously. Whether or not we could get a fair jury or a fair judge is another question. But again, there's always recourse, there's legal recourse, and moving these things up to the Supreme Court is always going to be on the table. So it's going to be a rocky road. I'm sure they have a lot more up their sleeve, not just for the legal cases, but also for things that could come down to, manipulating results in terms of how they're going to have the voter laws structured, what they're going to do to reform or not reform, rather, some of the systems in place going into 2024. I mean, this is going to be the battle, this boss battle, if you will, for the heart and soul of our republic. And they're going to pull out all the stops this cycle to ensure that they can try to defeat Trump and his new coalition. And I think it's going to come down to the wire, but we have to be vigilant. We have to stay on top of all these different issues and how they're all, interconnected. And going forward, that's just going to be the name of the game for Republicans. And again, if you simply think, if you're someone on the sidelines who doesn't like Trump and you think it's going to end with Trump, I mean, you're deluded. I mean, this is a trial run, if you will. This is something that they are testing to see if they can set a precedent, if they can set a game plan going forward to knock out anyone who be a threat to the system at large. And if they succeed with Trump, it's going to put us in a really, really tough place as a nation if we weren't already there. So we can't allow them to set that kind of horrible precedent with these cases, with whatever they're doing in the courts and in the state legislatures.